Cowboy's Forgotten Love, a childhood journey. The bullet hit the wooden post 2 inches from Cole Hardin's ear before he even heard the shot. He dropped flat against the dry earth, heart slamming against his ribs, dust filling his mouth. Another crack split the air above him. He rolled left, grabbed his horse's reins where she'd gone still with trained instinct, and pressed himself against the belly of the animal as a third shot shaved bark from the oak behind them. 3 shooters, at least, up on the ridge to the north. Cole had ridden into dusk water with nothing but a worn saddlebag, 60 cents, and a folded piece of paper he'd read so many times, the creases had gone soft as cloth. The town had looked ordinary from the trail. A water tower, a general store, a church with a cracked bell. What it had not looked was like the kind of place that opened its welcome with rifle fire. He got low, got moving, and got behind the stone wall of the old mill before the next shot came. He pressed his back to the cool stone and breathed. His horse, a steady roan mare he called Pepper, stood just outside the wall, ears pinned flat, not running. She never ran. That was the thing about Pepper. She'd been with him 11 years, and she had decided a long time ago that panic was beneath her. Cole pulled his hat down and looked at the paper again. Even now, with lead flying, his eyes went to it like they were being pulled on a string. The handwriting was a child's. Big, looping letters, some of them leaning the wrong direction. His own handwriting, from when he was 9 years old. It said, "When you grow up, find her. Her name is Nora. She lives where the white rocks are near the river. She saved me. Don't forget." He had forgotten. That was the truth of it, and it sat in his chest like a stone he couldn't cough out. He had forgotten for 20 years, and then 3 weeks ago, a flood had taken the floorboards of the old cabin where he'd grown up, and the tin box buried beneath them had washed up against the fence post, and the paper inside had survived every year, every frost, every silence. A voice called down from the ridge, "You ride on, stranger, and nobody gets hurt worse than their pride." Cole folded the paper, tucked it back in his shirt pocket, right over his heart. "I'm looking for someone," he called back. "Woman named Nora, that's all." Silence. Then a different voice, lower, with an edge to it like a blade that had been sharpened too many times. "No, then you've ridden to the wrong end of a very short rope." Cole did not move. He counted to 10, listening. 3 horses shifted up on the ridge. Boots scraped rock. One of the men coughed the kind of dry cough a man gets from too much trail dust and too little water. He was not going to shoot anyone. That was his rule since Abilene, and he intended to keep it. He waited. The name Nora had shaken loose a feeling in him that he didn't have good words for. Something between an ache and a debt. He was 30 years old, and he had lived the last decade moving from ranch to ranch, county to county, never putting roots down long enough to matter. He was good with horses. He was decent with his hands. He was the kind of man people trusted with their livestock and forgot about by spring. And he had not thought much about being 9 years old and alone and frightened in the scrub country north of the Cimarron River. But the paper had thought about it for him. He had been 9 when his father left. Not dead. Left. Cole had come home from the creek one afternoon, and the horse was gone and the money jar was empty, and the note on the table said only, "Be good." 2 words for a 9-year-old boy left alone in a 1-room cabin 40 miles from the nearest town. He did not remember the days that followed very clearly. He remembered being hungry. He remembered the sound the coyotes made at night, close enough to seem personal. He remembered that his boots had a hole in the left sole that let the cold ground through. And somewhere in those blank, hungry days, something had happened. Someone had come. He did not remember her face. He did not remember her voice. He only remembered the feeling of being safe for the first time in days, and the smell of wood smoke, and a bowl of something warm pressed into his hands. His 9-year-old self had written down what mattered. Her name is Nora. She saved me. Don't forget. He had forgotten anyway. And now he was 30, crouched behind a mill wall in a town with 3 nervous riflemen on a ridge, trying to remember a woman who had once been kind to a boy who had no one. He did not know if she was still alive. He did not know if she was still here. He knew the white rocks. He'd spotted them from the trail, a cluster of pale limestone formations along the east bank of the river, unusual enough to stick in the memory. The paper had been right about at least that much. The lower voice called down again. Last chance. Cowboy. Cole stood up from behind the wall, hands where they could see them, hat brim up. He looked straight at the ridge where 3 shapes crouched among the scrub cedar. I'm not here for trouble, he said, loud and steady. I came a long way. I'll ride out when I've done what I came to do, and not before. The pause that followed was long enough that a hawk circled twice overhead. Then one of the shapes on the ridge stood up fully. A young man, maybe 20, with a rifle held loose at his side, and an expression that mixed suspicion with something that might, under better circumstances, have been curiosity. Who sent you? The young man called. Cole reached into his shirt and held up the paper. A 9-year-old boy, he said, 21 years late. The ridge went quiet again. The hawk found a thermal and climbed away south. Pepper shifted her weight and blew air through her nose with the air of an animal who had seen stranger things than this and lived. The young man on the ridge looked at the other 2, then back at Cole. Come up, he said, slow. Cole put the paper back against his heart and walked forward. He did not know what he would find. He did not know if Nora was a name that still meant anything in Duskwater, or if she had moved on, or passed on, or grown into someone who didn't remember a hungry boy any more than he had remembered her. He only knew he had made a promise to himself when he was 9, and frightened and writing by firelight in the only language he had. Find her. He was going to keep it. Part 2. The young man's name was Cal Briggs, and he was not as hard as his rifle had suggested. Up close, he had a sunburned nose and eyes that moved fast, the way eyes move when a person has learned to read rooms before they enter them. He was maybe 19, wearing a vest 2 sizes too big that had clearly belonged to someone older and larger. The 2 men behind him were brothers, both with the same square jaw and matching expressions of cautious distrust. They went by Lyle and Pete Drummond, and they did not offer their hands. Cal looked at the folded paper Cole held out and did not take it. You rode in from the North Road? Cal asked. That's right. Anyone know you're here? No one alive knows I'm here, Cole said. That's the honest answer. Cal studied him for another moment, then nodded like that was, in some unexpected way, the right thing to say. They walked together down the back slope of the ridge, into a shallow draw where 4 horses were tied. Beyond the draw, half hidden by cottonwood trees growing thick along the riverbank, there was a small camp. 2 bedrolls, a fire ring that had not been used recently, a canvas lean-to strung between 2 trunks. Someone had been watching the road into Duskwater for a while. Who are you waiting for? Cole asked. Not who, Cal said. What? He stopped and turned to face Cole directly. There was something behind the young man's eyes that was not quite fear and not quite grief. Something compressed, like a fist that had been closed for a long time. There's a man named Harlan Voss, Cal said. He runs a land operation north of town. Been buying up every parcel between here and the river for the last 2 years. Buying is a generous word. Pressuring is more accurate. And Nora? Cole said. Cal's jaw tightened. She's the last one who hasn't sold. Cole let that settle. She still lives out by the White Rocks? He asked. Cal looked at him sharply. How do you know about the White Rocks? Cole held up the paper again. This time Cal took it. He unfolded it with careful hands, the way a person handles something that has already been broken once and survived. He read it. His face did something complicated. You wrote this? When I was 9. She found me out in the scrub country north of the Cimarron. I don't remember much, just that she was kind. Cal refolded the paper with the same careful hands and gave it back. She doesn't talk about that time, he said, before she came here. How long has she been in Duskwater? 18 years. Came with nothing. Built the property herself, near about. Tends a small herd, keeps a garden, trades at the store in town. A pause. She's not easy to know. But she's the kind of person that, once you do know her, you understand that everything that's worth anything in this valley runs through her. Cole understood something then. The way Cal spoke about her. Not like a man speaking about a neighbor, like a man speaking about the only fixed point on a map he'd been lost on for years. She know you're out here? Cole asked. She told us to go home, Cal said. We didn't. Lyle Drummond, who had not spoken until now, said from behind them, Voss sent 2 men to her property 3 days ago, said it was a conversation. They broke her fence line and let her cattle out onto the road. She get them back? Everyone. Took her all night. Lyle paused. She was back at the fence by sunrise with wire and posts. Cole looked toward the river. Through the cottonwoods, he could see the pale limestone formations rising from the east bank. White rocks, just like the paper said. And beyond them, set back on a gentle rise, a stone and timber house with a gray roof and a garden to the south side and a small barn that leaned very slightly to the left, as if it had been thinking about something for a long time. A woman was in the yard. She was not young. She moved with the particular economy of someone who had been doing hard work for many years and had made peace with the fact that it would never stop needing doing. Her hair was the color of iron, and she wore it pinned back. She was carrying a fence post over one shoulder like it weighed nothing. Cole stood among the cottonwoods and looked at her and tried to find in his memory the shape of the woman who had pressed a warm bowl into his hands when he was 9 years old. He found nothing. No image, no sound, only the feeling. That was all that had survived 21 years. A feeling of being safe in a world that had just taught him it wasn't. He stepped forward out of the trees. Nora set the fence post down and looked at him. Her face was weathered in the way faces get weathered when they have absorbed a lot of weather and a lot of years and have not sheltered from either. She looked at him the way people look at strangers in country, where strangers arrive with intentions you can't read until it's too late. You're not from here, she said. No, ma'am. You're not with Voss? No. She waited until Cole took the paper from his chest pocket. He didn't say anything. He just held it out. She looked at it. Then she looked at his face. Something moved through her expression too fast to name, there and gone before he could read it. She took the paper and read it. She stood very still. A long moment passed. A bird called from somewhere in the cottonwoods. The wind off the river moved through the grass along the bank with a sound like breathing. You were very thin, she said at last, and her voice was low and careful. I was afraid you wouldn't make it through the night. I made it. Cole said. She looked up from the paper. Her eyes were dark gray, direct, the kind of eyes that had looked at hard things for a long time and had not gone soft or distant from it. You rode here for this? She said. For a piece of paper? I rode here because a boy made a promise, Cole said. I'm trying to be the kind of man who keeps the ones that matter. The wind moved the grass again. She handed him the paper back. I have work to do, she said. You can help or you can stand there. Either way, you're not leaving before supper. Cole put the paper back against his heart. He reached down and picked up the fence post she had set down. Which way? He said. She pointed south along the fence line and started walking. He followed. Behind them, from the cottonwoods, Cal Briggs watched and did not fire any more rifles at anybody, which was, all things considered, a significant improvement on how the morning had started. Part 3. Harlan Voss was not a man who came himself. That was the first thing Cole understood about him. And in 3 days at Nora's property, he had not seen Voss once. What he had seen were the signs of him. A gate left open when it had been closed the night before. Fresh boot tracks in the soft mud near the water trough that did not belong to anyone on the property. A surveying stake driven into the ground at the northeast corner of the pasture, bearing Voss's land company mark burned into the wood. Nora had pulled the stake and thrown it in the river without a word. Cole had watched her do it. The motion was neither dramatic nor angry. It was the motion of a woman removing a splinter. He had come to understand, in those 3 days, what Cal had meant about her. She rose before the light, worked until the light was gone, fed her animals, tended her garden, and maintained her fences and her buildings with a meticulous precision that was not about pride but about survival. Every post, every hinge, every patch section of roof was a statement in a language that Harlan Voss apparently did not speak. This is mine. It will remain mine. On the 4th morning, Voss sent someone Cole could actually see. He was a man named Greer, tall enough that he had to duck through standard doorways, and he arrived at the property on a good horse with good tack and the kind of easy smile that does not reach anywhere above the cheekbones. He had a legal document in his hand that he held out toward Nora like it was a gift. Cole was mending a section of fence along the north side when he heard the horses arrive. He set down his tools and walked over slowly. Nora stood in her yard. She had not moved toward Greer. She had not moved away. She stood with her arms loose at her sides and read the document that Greer had apparently convinced her to take. Fair offer, Greer said. Mr. Voss is a reasonable man. He understands the attachment people develop to their land. That's why he's being generous. Nora lowered the document. This is 60% of the land's value, she said. Accounting for the development costs Mr. Voss will absorb. The land needs no development. It has a working house, a working barn, and a pasture that has carried cattle for 18 years. Greer's smile did not flicker. The price reflects the regional market. No, Nora said. She held the document back out toward him. It reflects what you can get away with. Greer took the document, but did not put it away. His eyes moved past Nora and found Cole standing at the fence line. Who's this? He said. A friend, Nora said. Friend got a name? Most people do, Cole said. Greer studied him for a moment. His horse shifted and Greer brought it back to still with a small pressure of his knee. He was a man who knew how to handle horses, which meant he was not soft, which meant he was not here only to deliver paperwork. Mr. Voss is patient, Greer said to Nora, putting the document back in his coat. But patience has a shape. Once it's full, it doesn't empty again. He turned his horse and rode back the way he came. Cal came around the corner of the barn where he had been standing out of sight. "You should have let me follow him," he said. "No," Nora said. She picked up a rake she had set against the fence and went back to the garden. And Cal looked at Cole. Cole picked up his tools and went back to the fence. That night, after supper, Nora spread a map on the table. It was hand-drawn, the lines precise, the annotations small and clear. She pointed to the properties along the river. "Garfield sold in the spring," she said. "Dutton sold in June. The Marsh family held out 6 weeks longer than anyone expected, and then Voss's men ran their horses off in the night, and they had no choice." She moved her finger to the east side of the map. "Morrison and his wife left last month. Didn't even wait to sell, just left." The map showed the river valley as a series of empty lots, one by one, with a single property still intact near the White Rock Formation. Hers. "Why you?" Cole asked. She was quiet for a moment. "Because of the water. The property sits on the best draw from the river in this section. Without it, Voss's irrigation plan for the northern parcels doesn't work. He needs this land more than he needs any of the others. Which makes you the most dangerous person to him," Cole said. She looked up from the map. "Yes." "And the one he'll work hardest to move." "Yes." Cole leaned back in his chair and looked at the map. The fire in the stove made small sounds. Outside, Pepper moved in the barn and settled again. He thought about a 9-year-old boy alone in the dark, learning for the first time what it felt like when the world stopped being safe. He thought about what it meant that the woman who had rebuilt that safety for one night 21 years ago was now watching the world try to take hers apart, piece by piece. "I'm not leaving," he said. Nora looked at him carefully. "I didn't ask you to stay." "I know. I didn't ask you to come in the first place." "I know that too." She folded the map with the slow, deliberate hands. "I've managed this alone for a long time." "You have," Cole said, "and you're still here because of it." He let that sit. Then he said, "I'm not here because I think you need saving. I'm here because I owe a debt to a woman who was kind when the world wasn't. The least I can do is stand on the right side of the fence while I repay it." Nora set the folded map on the shelf above the stove. She was quiet for a long moment. "You can sleep in the barn," she said. "It's warmer than it looks." "I know," he said. "I put new weatherboards on the east wall this afternoon." She almost smiled. It was a small, reluctant thing, barely there and gone before it could be named. But Cole had been watching for it since the first day, and he did not miss it. He said good night and went out to the barn. The stars over Duskwater were thick and low and very bright. In the morning, Voss would come closer. Cole was certain of it. Greer had been reading the situation, measuring the resistance, reporting back. The next move would not be a man on a good horse with a piece of paper. Cole lay on his bedroll in the warm barn while Pepper breathed steadily in the stall beside him. He had fixed the fence. He had put weatherboards on the barn. He had mended a gate hinge and restrung 3 sections of pasture wire. Tomorrow he would be ready for whatever came next. He closed his eyes. Part 4. What came next arrived at first light on the 6th day, and it was not subtle. 4 riders on the road from the north. Not Greer this time. These were different men, heavier in the shoulder, with the look of people who had been hired for their physical weight rather than their conversational skills. Behind them, a wagon carrying equipment Cole recognized without wanting to. Survey stakes, measuring chains, boundary markers. the language of possession dressed up as paperwork. Cole had been awake since before them. He was at the gate when they arrived. "Property's closed," he said. The lead rider, a man with a red beard and a flat expression, looked down at him from the saddle. "We have a survey order," Redbeard said. He held up a document. "Nora Calloway hasn't signed anything," Cole said. "Yes, you don't survey land you don't own." "Judge Alderman signed it." "Then Judge Alderman is going to want to explain that to her directly. Go get him." Redbeard's flat expression got flatter. Cal was at the corner of the fence, rifle not raised but present. Lyle and Pete Drummond were visible at the far end of the drive. They had arrived before dawn when Cole had sent word through the one boy in town he'd found willing to carry it, a 13-year-old named Drew who could run like he'd been designed for it. Redbeard looked at the 3 visible rifles and did the arithmetic. "This isn't over," he said. "It isn't," Cole agreed. "Go tell Voss it's time to talk to her himself." They left. Cole went inside. Nora was at the table with a cup of coffee and an expression of controlled steadiness that Cole was beginning to understand was not calmness. It was the face she wore when she was burning very hot on the inside and had decided that showing it would not help. "They'll be back," she said. "Yes, with something official enough to make it harder to refuse." She wrapped both hands around her cup. "I've been to the county office 4 times. My deed is clean. The water rights are mine, filed and recorded. There is no legal mechanism for Voss to take this property." "There are illegal ones?" She looked at him. "He's been doing it to everyone else," Cole said. "Running animals off, cutting fences, making the work so hard and the nights so long that people leave before the law ever has to get involved." Nora set her cup down. "And what are you suggesting?" "I'm not suggesting anything yet," Cole said. "I'm telling you what I see, and what I see is a man who has never had someone refuse to eventually crack." She was quiet for a moment. "My neighbor, Eleanor Marsh," she said, "was found on the road to Denton after she left. Everything she owned was in 2 bags on her saddle. She had been on this land 23 years. A pause. She didn't look back when she rode out. Not once." Cole heard what was under the words. "You're not Eleanor Marsh," he said. "No," she said. "I am not." She stood and picked up her coat from the hook by the door. "Come on," she said. "I need to talk to someone in town. You should hear it." They rode into dusk water together. The town looked ordinary in the morning light. The general store, the church, the water tower, a few people on the main street who watched them ride past with the particular studied casualness of people who are watching very hard. The person Nora wanted to see was the county land recorder, a woman named Clara Webb, who kept her office in the back of the post building. She was a thin woman with spectacles and an organized desk, and the expression of someone who had been careful for so long it had become her resting state. She looked up when they entered and did not look surprised. "I've been expecting you," Clara said to Nora. "What's happened?" Nora asked. Clara opened the top drawer of her desk. She set a document on the table between them, a dense legal paper dense with formal language, stamped twice, signed at the bottom with a signature Cole could read from where he stood. Judge Alderman. "But he filed this 2 days ago," Clara said. "It's a contested boundary declaration. It argues that the northeast corner of your property was incorrectly surveyed when your deed was filed, and that the true boundary places the water draw outside your property line." Nora stared at the document. "That is not true," she said. Her voice was level and exact. "I have the original survey markers. I placed them myself with the county surveyor. They are recorded. I know, Clara said. I recorded them. She met Nora's eyes. I also know that Judge Alderman has connections to Voss's land company that are not listed anywhere publicly, but are understood by anyone who has been in this county more than 5 years. Cole looked at Clara. You're taking a risk telling us this. Clara looked at him steadily. I've watched 6 families leave this valley in 2 years. I'm tired of being careful. She pushed a second document across the desk. I made a copy of the original survey filing. The date stamps are clear. Any honest court would dismiss Alderman's claim inside 10 minutes. The honest courts are in Wichita, Nora said. Yes, Clara said. Cole picked up the copy. He looked at it carefully. We need someone to carry this to Wichita and file a counter-declaration before Voss can move on the boundary claim, he said. That takes time we don't have, Nora said. If Voss gets a temporary enforcement on the contested boundary, he can fence off the water draw while the case is pending. The herd dies. The property becomes worthless. Then we need to slow him down. How? Cole folded the copy carefully and put it inside his coat. No, by making sure that everyone between here and Wichita knows exactly what's happening in this valley, he said. Voss has been doing this quietly because quiet is how it works. One family at a time. No one comparing notes. He looked at Clara. Who else has documents? Anyone who was pressured, had fences cut, had animals run off? Clara opened a second drawer. It was full of papers. She looked at him over her spectacles. I've been keeping copies, she said quietly, for 2 years. Nora looked at the drawer, then at Cole. Cole thought about a 9-year-old boy alone in the scrub dark, and a woman who had been kind without being asked, and a piece of paper that had survived 21 years for exactly this moment. He pulled up a chair. Let's start from the beginning, he said. Tell me everything you have. Part 5. The rider Drew made it to Wichita in 36 hours on 2 horses and a borrowed mule, carrying a sealed packet that Clara Webb had prepared with the methodical fury of a woman who had been quietly furious for 2 years and had finally found a direction to point it. Inside the packet were 14 documented incidents, signed statements from 3 former landowners who had already left the valley, survey records, copies of the original property filings, and a formal complaint against Judge Alderman's contested boundary declaration, countersigned by Clara in her official capacity as county land recorder, which made it harder to ignore and much harder to quietly make disappear. Cole did not wait to hear back. He had learned, in the years between 9 and 30, that waiting is a luxury and momentum is not. On the morning after Drew rode out, Harlan Voss came himself. Cole had never seen the man, but he would have known him in a crowd of 100. Voss was perhaps 55, trim and well-dressed in the way of a man who has spent years ensuring that his appearance communicates specific things. He rode a black horse that cost more than most people in this valley made in a year. He had 2 men behind him who were not Greer and not Redbeard. These 2 had the quiet efficiency of professionals. He stopped at the gate. Cole was there. I'd like to speak with Miss Calloway, Voss said. His voice was smooth and moderate, the voice of a man who had conducted many difficult conversations and considered them a skill. She's in the yard, Cole said. He did not open the gate. You can speak from here. Voss looked at him with the mild interest of a man encountering something unexpected but not concerning. And you are? Someone who's been reading a lot of paperwork lately, Cole said. Something shifted behind Voss's eyes. Not alarm, a recalibration. The counterfiling, he said. among other things. Voss was quiet for a moment. Then, whatever she's paying you, I'll pay more. Cole looked at him. Go ahead and speak, Cole said. She can hear you from where she's standing. Nora was 10 yards behind Cole, near the water trough. She had not walked forward. She did not need to. Her stillness was its own statement. Voss looked past Cole to her. Miss Calloway, he said, his voice carrying easily, the voice of a man accustomed to being heard. I want to resolve this directly. The legal proceedings that have been set in motion will be costly and slow for both of us. I have no interest in a prolonged dispute. Nora said nothing. She waited. I am prepared to offer full assessed value, Voss said. Current assessment. Every acre. The offer sat in the morning air. Cole did not move. Nora walked forward slowly until she was standing beside Cole at the gate. She looked at Voss with her direct gray eyes, the eyes that had seen hard things and not looked away from any of them. You broke Eleanor Marsh's fence at 2 a.m, she said. I heard her horses on the road. Voss said nothing. You ran the Dutton family's cattle into the river draw in a rainstorm, Nora said. They lost 4 head. Still nothing. You filed a fraudulent boundary claim through a judge who owes you favors, she said. And you are standing at my gate with a full price offer because someone in Wichita has read Clara Webb's documentation and you are afraid of what happens next. Voss's smooth expression held. This is a business transaction, he said carefully. Yes, Nora said. It is, and my answer is no. A long pause. The legal process will take months, Voss said. It will be expensive. You will be managing this property alone during all of it. Not alone, Nora said. She did not look at Cole when she said it. She did not need to. Voss looked at Cole for a long moment. Cole looked back. Then Voss turned his black horse and rode back the way he came, his 2 quiet professionals following without a word. Cal let out a breath from behind the barn. Lyle Drummond said something to his brother that neither of them caught. Pepper, in the barn, banged her nose against the stall door the way she did when she was satisfied. Cole looked at the empty road. Nora turned and walked back toward the house. She stopped at the door and looked back at him. That's not the end of it, she said. No, Cole agreed. He'll file responses to every document Clara sent. It'll take months to work through. I know. She looked at him for a moment. Why are you still here, Cole? He thought about the paper folded against his heart. He thought about a boy who had written "find her" in the only alphabet he had. He thought about what it means to carry a debt for 21 years, and then stand at the gate of the person you owe it to and feel, for the first time in longer than he could measure, like he was standing in the right place. Because the fence on the south side is still 2 posts short, he said. And the barn hinge on the left door needs replacing before winter. She looked at him for a long moment. The almost smile came back, smaller than before, which somehow made it larger. There's also the irrigation channel on the east side, she said. It's been backing up since summer. I can look at that tomorrow. She nodded once. She went inside. Cole turned back to the gate and stood in the morning light for a while, looking at the white rocks along the riverbank and the water moving past them, and the sky going wide and pale and blue above the valley. He took the paper out one more time. When you grow up, find her. Her name is Nora. She lives where the white rocks are near the river. She saved me. Don't forget. He had found her. She was still here, and standing on land that she had built and held and refused to let be taken. And somewhere between the folded paper and the repaired fences and the morning light over the white rocks. The debt he had been carrying since he was 9 years old had shifted into something he did not have a name for yet. He was not in a hurry to name it. He put the paper back. He picked up his tools. He walked south along the fence line to where the 2 posts were still missing and got to work. The valley was quiet except for the river and the wind and the sound of someone building something that was meant to last. And as ours.